Shove it, man! Alright, the squad, who's ready to delve into a bit more of Billy Corgan's NWA? You seem to really enjoy the pay-per-view review that I did, so why not? NWA is a 75-year-old company which has mostly been dead for a long time, even though the name is still recognisable and historical. They had a brief revival in the late 2010s with Billy Corgan leading the show in a more serious direction and Nick Aldis trying to restore respect to the promotion. But then AEW WWE hoovered up all their best talent. Nick Aldis left and Billy Corgan seemed to lose the plot a bit. Whilst history will probably end up showing that the recent pay-per-view was the knockout blow. I recently reviewed that, by the way, so check it out if you didn't. There was some insane stuff on there. But what I'm going to show you today is the start of the sickness, the lethal poison, and when people stopped watching. Alright, it's Tyrus, the NWA Virus. You all know Tyrus. He's a presenter on Fox News, and for the record, no, I don't know or care what his political views are. He was the dancing super heavyweight in the WWE, and in TNA he was the security for ET3 and Matt Hardy. Nobody ever really viewed him as anything more than those roles, and that was fine. That was until the NWA changed the game. Coming into 2021, there was a little bit of optimism around the NWA company. They'd just come off the popular £10 of gold series with Nick Aldis. The crowds had returned after the crunching era. They did still have some good wrestlers on the roster, but then Tyrus arrived on the Back for the Attack pay-per-view. He immediately complained that nobody set up an interview with him, but he's used to being disrespected anyway. As he walks off, it's clear that he can barely walk. He faces a miniature version of himself called Kratos. It's in his first match that you really understand the direction this company is going in. I cannot remember the last time I saw a match end with a simple smash in the corner and one elbow drop. It's very different to current wrestling styles, and I am somebody who believes in being different to stand out, but the biggest wrestling sin is being boring, and this match was certainly that. The Pope, D'Angelo De Niro, was the TV champion, which seemed like a smart move from the company. But Tyrus and his old man manager Austin Idol have set their sights on the Pope's title. Whilst in the NWA, Tyrus will be a part of some wacky faction run by this man. His manager proclaims that Tyrus is going to the top, and he will win the heavyweight title. Tyrus is using a tongue and death grip chokeslam as a finisher. We're told it's called the Nuff Said, and his manager says there's going to be trouble if people don't call it that. It's never called that again for the rest of this run. After first facing the Pope in a boring time limit draw which went 6 minutes and 5 seconds by the way, the manager kept getting involved. They met again on pay-per-view at When Our Shadows Fall. Ooh, edgy name right there. For some reason the title isn't on the line. Either blue is a bad colour for him, or Tyrus is at his heaviest at this point. Pope does surprisingly kick out the tongue and chokeslam. Pope also hits his finisher, but the manager distracts him and Tyrus punches Pope in the throat with some brass knuckles and it's over. Not good. We then complete our trio of terrible matches with another TV title match. This time it has a different result. In the NWA, if you hold the NWA TV title and you defend it 7 times, you can trade it in for a World Heavyweight title shot. The Lucky 7. This is the Pope's 7th defence. The manager cheats as usual. There's a ref bump. Pope has it won, but no ref. Tyrus hits the heart punch and the ref is woken up to count the 3, and Tyrus is the new TV champion. It looks like he swallowed a beach ball to be fair, and the match sucked. And this title reign just keeps on going as wrestler after wrestler falls victim to Tyrus and his crew of wacky villains. I'm going to tell my kids this was Alexander Hammerstone and Jonathan Gresham. Tyrus keeps on rolling with the TV title defences, but they're all boring mostly, and they're all against his friends in nothing matches. 2022 starts with a TV title defence against Rodney Mack, the Mack Militant. Tyrus's manager proclaims that Tyrus is going to wrestle the pay-per-view on his own and he's going to show what he's all about. Not much from the evidence so far. The comments keep telling us that Tyrus has lost weight as he lumbers around the ring barely moving. Mack does suplex him from the top, so that's something, but Tyrus is too fat and Mack can't roll him over to make the pin. Tyrus literally punches him once in the gut and hits the heart punch for the 3. It's hard to enjoy any of this. And if you were pissed off after buying this pay-per-view, it got worse later that night. Because in the main event, the special referee is a wild slapnuts appearance.
Jeff Jarrett.
Slappy is everywhere, in every promotion, in every decade. Now, then, and forever slapnuts. Now we get the Tyrus Body Slam Challenge. Tyrus is so large that it's seen as a massive accomplishment if you can pick him up and slam him. But the key is, you only have 3 chances to try and slam him. The crowd is in silence. Both wrestlers slowly walk around the ring staring into space. The manager causes the wrestler to cry, and then Tyrus heart punches him and gets DQ'd. A very stupid match. It wasn't like the guy was suddenly going to be able to slam him. 2 weeks after that, they do another slam challenge. A wrestler called Mims manages to slam Tyrus to earn a TV title shot. But before he can have that shot, a jobber who looks like Enzo Amore also competes in the Tyrus Slam Challenge. I don't know why they did it again after the gimmick was made dead by the last guy beating Tyrus. Tyrus gets DQ'd, so he had 3 matches and not won a single one of these. This whole time he's walking around in filthy looking sweatpants. It looks so low budget. Tyrus has now been the TV champion for over a year as he faces Mims on pay-per-view. Fortunately not in a slam match. After a very long plodding affair, Mims once again slams Tyrus. I guess they thought this would be like when Hogan slammed Andre. But Tyrus kicked out the pin and eventually hit the fart punch for the win. I'm not sure how anybody could be enjoying this. Tyrus continued dominating the TV title scene with defence after defence. A man with a blue beard just didn't stand a chance. Nobody could stand up to the might of the American Smash Tyrus. He was on a streak like Bill Goldberg, and it didn't feel like this unstoppable train was getting derailed anytime soon. Until it did. At the NWA 74 pay-per-view, Billy Corgan wanted to make the biggest main event possible, so he made a world title match with Tyrus challenging for Trevor Murdoch's belt. It's clear that this is only happening because the NWA think Tyrus is a big-time star. They tell us he's seen by millions of people every day as a host on Fox News, which doesn't equally qualify him as a brilliant wrestler. If anything, Trevor Murdoch proves that a tubby wrestler can still actually do cool things in the ring. Tyrus spends the match slowly pondering around. The key here is that Tyrus has not cashed in his TV title Lucky 7, and so regardless of the outcome of this match, he will be able to have another heavyweight title shot afterwards. Trevor considers getting DQ'd, but doesn't, and almost pays for it with a heart punch, but kicks out. Strangely, Tyrus also refuses the temptation to cheat. Murdoch smacks him in the slash zone and hits his finisher, the diving bulldog, twice. The mighty Tyrus finally loses. It's over. The reign of terror is done. Oh no. Oh no, little friends. We're only just getting started, and it's about to get a whole lot worse. In the post-match, Tyrus turns from face to heel. Murdoch tries to show him respect, which causes Tyrus to rage quit, and he flips a table on top of Velvet Sky.
You were thrown into a position that you weren't prepared for. But for 6 weeks, dog. No, don't you stop. It's what a bitch.
Tyrus does cash in his Lucky 7 at Hard Times 2022, and there's a triple threat match for the world title. Murdoch defends against Mid-Cardona and Tyrus. It's only 10 minutes, which is great because it's boring. Tyrus spends the match fighting off 2 men because he's a hero. He wins with the Tongue and Death Grip Choke Slam, and he is the world champion, and there's collective gasp in the crowd. Really? Tyrus is the holder of the top belt in this 75-year-old promotion. Really? The entire Austin Idol faction have all the belts. I'm getting Slapnuts vibes. More surprising than this massive last-minute judgment by the NWA is the fact that the belt actually fits around the waist of Tyrus. I wonder how much grease they had to rub on him to get that on. Tyrus tries to cut a promo talking about how he will be a fighting champion whilst his clueless manager doesn't know where the hard camera is, and he blocks almost the entire promo. It truly is amateur hour here. Next on pay-per-view, it's Mack Cardona. Tyrus's music sounds like somebody repeatedly farting into a trombone. Very appropriate. This match could have an interesting dynamic with a weird choice of Cardona being the heel and Tyrus as the face. I thought Tyrus was a heel. Ugh, it's so hard to follow what he's doing. Then you realise that this match has taken place in the basement of a preschool gym. Talking of not drawing a dime, Mike Graham's daughter is in attendance. The crowd don't know who to cheer. Now this match wasn't exactly going well, but then we got a ref bump and for some reason a tiny comedy wrestler runs out of a chair. Tyrus suplexes him across the ring for probably the high point of this match. Cardona lands a bunch of weapon shots which doesn't end it because Tyrus has a padded head. The same ref gets bumped again just so Mike Knox can interfere with a crossbody on Tyrus. How can our hero survive these odds? Well, Bully Ray comes to our hero's aid and he kills Mike Knox. Tyrus hits the tongue and choke slam and he's still the champion. Bully Ray cuts a promo praising Tyrus' career and saying that we have to respect him for what he's done. No, we don't. Tyrus offers him a title shot. It feels like they really are trying to make Tyrus likeable here as he had to fight off several people. Bully Ray would never have a title shot. Around this time, Fox News was using clips of him during the Super Bowl. The wrestling world was also starting to catch on to the fact that Tyrus was the NWA Heavyweight Champion, and they took to trolling the NWA and Corgan's social media. People were in disbelief that the company could be this dumb. Some people weren't trolling though. There were those who were genuinely angry and cancelled their NWA subscriptions. Tyrus actually does acknowledge this in several promos. He says none of the internet fans could get out their mum's basements to be in the arena to see how he's actually getting on during the show. I can't tell if this guy's meant to be heel or face. Well, if the internet fans did indeed tune in to check out Power, they would see Tyrus defending his belt against another comedy act, Rolando Freeman, in the main event too. It's so wacky and stupid. If this guy can get a title shot, how can anybody take any of this serious? Tyrus wrestled him in his sleeping clothes. He wins in 2 minutes with an elbow drop whilst EC3 and Tyrus's former manager Black G's watch on. Tyrus also got to wrestle in Mexico City against Daga, probably the biggest crowd he'd wrestled in front of in years. The stadium was still half empty though. It's hard to comprehend Tyrus headlining any pay-per-view, let alone in AAA. Unfortunately, Daga was too busy thinking about missing Tessa Blanchard's ass cheeks to concentrate on the match, and it makes him a loser. Normally when the Hawk does it in the gym it helps me. Perhaps there's a time and a place. The match only goes 5 minutes because Daga messed his leg up and Tyrus beat him with one simple elbow drop. What a mess. So it's a horrible chain of main event pay-per-view matches, and it's not going to get any better as he faces wrestling Jesus Chris Adonis. The problem with Tyrus is that despite his size, he never seems to look intimidating. All his matches are slow corner attacks with no intensity, probably because he's gassed up. You'd think with his size he could hit some cool power moves, but we never even see more than one overhead suplex per match. As wrestling fans, we've become accustomed to something cool happening regularly to keep our attention. Good luck with this. Tyrus main event matches rarely feature anything cool. In a different era, maybe this works, but not here. Adonis puts on his Adonis lock, but Tyrus is so fat that he slops backwards on top of him for the 3. The monster was bored of the lack of heavyweight challengers, so he set his sights on the Crockett Cup, which was a historic tag team tournament. This meant that Tyrus was off TV for large chunks of time, and the company solely focused on tournament matches. After 1 month, the champion had showed back up on telly. He had finally chosen a tag team partner for this tournament. It was decided he would team with Chris Adonis as they felt they were closely matched up. Adonis didn't want to be his partner. This was honestly such a horrible few months in the company as the budget slipped and things seemed to be getting wackier and wackier. They eventually reluctantly team up with each other against Doom 2.0. Maybe this could be good, maybe it's a way for Tyrus to work in short bursts and not get too exhausted. It does seem to go a little bit better with the short burst strategy, but it ends in a count out. And on to the actual pay-per-view tournament at the Crockett Cup pay-per-view we go. And if you're a fan of Tyrus, this is the show for you, as he pulls triple duty. Jesus wept. Father James Mitchell and his miserable tag team take on Tyrus and Adonis, who have randomly been given the name the Midnight Riders. In the first match, he's only in the ring for half a minute before the other team get DQ'd. In the second match, they take on a cab driver with a beard and another man with a beard, but it's blue. The cabbie just about manages to slam Tyrus, which is pretty impressive. Now you thought the previous matches were slow, Jesus Christ. Tyrus is selling his leg the whole match, which may or may not be real, so it's just 2 random wrestlers kicking and punching a giant lump on the floor. He reminds me of Snorlax a bit. Mercifully, after 5 minutes he hits 1 T-bone suplex and tags out. The cabbie decides to dive on Tyrus off the apron. Now look how anticlimactic this is. It looks like nothing happens because Tyrus can barely move or sell anything. Adonis beats Bluebeard with a master lock. And just like that, our heroes are into the Crockett Cup semi-finals. And in case you're wondering, Tyrus has only been pinned once in his entire NWA run. So this time it's Knox and Murdoch, and they'll face the Midnight Riders. Why is that their name? What does it have to do with either of them? In this one, Adonis doesn't want Tyrus to have a tag because his knee is too injured, but Tyrus forces his way into the match, so Chris Adonis gets annoyed. I don't actually mind when he fights Murdoch. It's probably one of the few people Tyrus ever goes off his feet for. He's isolated due to his bad leg, and eventually he throws his standard 1 suplex and tags out. Adonis is beaten by a high-low, and as usual, Tyrus is not pinned. Knox and Murdoch end up winning the tournament. The Midnight Riders had a good run, but as daylight hit, the wheels came off. After that pay-per-view, Tyrus completely disappeared from NWA TV, despite being their champion. Without being mentioned for 2 months, a video package randomly airs on Power. It seems that EC3 and Tyrus have randomly agreed to have a bull rope match without any build or reason for it to be happening. And also for no reason, Tyrus is going to put his career on the line. So Tyrus has everything to lose and nothing to gain. The only wrestling connection these two have is when Tyrus was EC3's lackey in TNA, but that was a long time ago in another company. Now this following match at NWA 75 has gone down in infamy as a terrible pay-per-view main event. They also came up in the business at the same time, but it's not as if anyone saw that story. Now this following match at NWA 75 has gone down in infamy as a terrible pay-per-view main event. This took place about 6 months ago, and I already hate bull rope matches, so I wasn't looking forward to seeing this. Then I see the crowd, and I'm really not looking forward to seeing this. There's no storyline whatsoever. Tyrus enters with his kid. You can tell his son really looks up to him. Tyrus struggles to climb into the ring. When I realised this match was 17 minutes long, I was close to tears. They start out looking like they're about to make love. Then Tyrus turns into an abusive lover. Tyrus no-sells a load of chops as his boob shakes almost causes an earthquake and he smacks Ethan down. Tyrus keeps smiling into the camera as he dominates EC3 slowly. He of course hits the two-bone suplex. EC3 randomly DDTs him on a camera platform and then once again on the floor. Wow, that was unexpected. He tries to send Tyrus for a table which instead is turned into a Tyrus suplex on the floor. EC3 desperately tries a belt shot but he's stopped and chokeslammed through a table. Okay, this is already better than any match I've had the displeasure of sitting through for this video. Unfortunately, Tyrus forgot it's not Fool's Cat anywhere, but that won't stop my enjoyment. In the ring, Tyrus tries to run the ropes, but can't, but he does manage to hit a splash for a 2. That's like an ice cream truck falling on you. Somehow a 2 count. EC3 starts working on his arm with a vengeance. He uses weapons for a while and Tyrus starts shaking like there's something seriously wrong with him. Tyrus suddenly fights back with a punch to the gut and the Tongan chokeslam, but the referee gets bumped. EC3 hits him with 2 1%ers and then Tyrus randomly kicks out of 1. This is the only match I've seen in this entire run that the crowd is invested in. Tyrus keeps no-selling a cowbell to the head but eventually gets forced down. EC3 locks on a submission which he calls the purpose and after a bit of a battle Tyrus taps out. EC3 is now the NWA Heavyweight Champion and Tyrus must retire at the age of 50. Ethan kisses and cuddles him and leaves the ring. The crowd chant "Thank you Tyrus" as he cuts his final promo. He talks about his love for Dusty Rhodes and Gorilla Monsoon. He says he loves wrestling but wrestling didn't love him. He thanks Pat Patterson and Tom Pritchard. EC3 returns and tells Tyrus that he can keep the belt as a souvenir. Wrestlers are in the ring crying and say their goodbyes and then that's that. Wow. As usual, you can't believe everything that you read on the internet. That match was rated a 0.83 out of 10. Simply not true. It was the best Tyrus match I've ever seen and the only match on this run which didn't bore me to tears. Tyrus is beaten and this ends his NWA Heavyweight title reign at 289 days. I came out of this with a bit more respect for the man. He clearly tried and the Hawk never lied, so a surprisingly positive end to Tyrus as champion. So that finishes that, and I can testify that this was all pretty horrible, minus the final match which genuinely impressed me. But the biggest offender was the match quality overall, where nearly every match put me to sleep. His promos were fine I guess, but nothing amazing that made you want to see him or the match, and isn't that the point in a promo anyway? It was hard to tell if he was heel or face, it was weird. This was like a failed experiment, and despite his strong booking where he was only pinned once in 2.5 years, it just didn't click. He wasn't likeable enough as a face or scary and dickish enough as a heel. He always just came across as someone who was out to prove his trolls wrong, and he kept disappearing. At one stage he didn't defend his belt for 100 days. Billy Corgan said the decision to make Tyrus the champion was not due to his Fox News connection and he respects his hustle as a self-made man. Billy Corgan got upset with all the fan trolling and fired back at the fans by saying, "You're not a wrestling fan if you're not a fan of Tyrus." This seemingly gave trolls more ammunition. Even though Tyrus bringing his belts on the Fox show was probably the most exposure the NWA ever got. It also came across as a political decision, let's be honest, nobody wants politics in wrestling. The title change was met with real optimism from NWA fans as the main event would improve. Plus EC3 has a bit more going for him than Tyrus. The following pay-per-view would be the most hype NWA had gotten for a while. There was talk of a good TV deal coming and it was revived positivity. Fans said they would start watching the show again now that Tyrus has gone, yet the fans never did. And that might have something to do with what happened next. They went and followed that with one of the worst pay-per-views I've ever seen and offended a lot of sponsors. I just reviewed that show, so check that out if you haven't already. They've just come off a long hated title reign of Tyrus and a terrible pay-per-view. It's safe to say any optimism for this brand is dead. There's now rumours of budget cuts such as NWA paying for flights and hotels. And you can expect big names to be leaving soon. Camille is the latest to be offered a WWE contract. NWA has also made some bad decisions with streaming their shows which hasn't helped the audience. So Tyrus didn't kill the NWA, but he sure made it sick and weakened them, and the pay-per-view after this was just like a 1-2 uppercut to the jaw, and if you don't agree with that I'll drop you to the floor.